Hello, everybody.
Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday.
Happy
What's going
Sunday.
on? What's going on?
Nothing but the rent.
Today we got a great show. I've been looking forward, even though I didn't get a chance to see the book. I still got one or two questions for our guest today, who's going to teach us to be financially literate. Someone who has a great history in finance that we're going to talk about. I'm sure Keela is going to have a more extensive um, introduction, but I just want everybody to introduce to some people, to our audience, Miss LaKeisha Mallett.
Hey, girl.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome to the show, ma'am. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
look,
having
we got a lot of ground to cover, so I ain't gonna waste no time. I'm just gonna get into this thing where we're gonna scratch this album by Patrice Rushen. Patrice Rushen is Little Baby Fingers. She used to date Prince, I heard, and I'm gonna scratch some of her stuff. You know her stuff, like Remind Me and Forget Me Nots, all of them
Mhm.
jams. But this is her classic album, classic jazz album. That's before she got into R&B. All right, so
Hmm.
we're gonna do that. So while I scratch this thing, I want to
Never
ask
knew
you
there
a
was a
question.
thing.
What? Let me ask you this question: Where are we going today?
We're going all the way there. Lakeisha, where are we going?
all the way
We
there.
going all the
Where are we going today? All the way there.
Hey, everybody. I want to remind you that we are now live on Instagram as well as YouTube. I finally got that together. So I wanted to say hello to everybody, and we have LaKeisha Mallett with us today.
Hey.
Hey, girl. And so, listen, Aaron is going to he's going to teach us a little bit about some Black history before we jump into LaKeisha. So, that's what we'll be using the icebreaker for today. So, let's all sit back and learn a
And, gi-
spell
and
today.
give me a great, big, warm round of applause. No, no applause, no applause. All right, so look, today we're going to talk about L. Alex Wilson. L. Alex Wilson was a big time reporter and editor for Negro newspapers, which is what they called them back then. He was always a great student, always liked to read. And so what happened with him was when he was growing up in Orlando, Florida, he ran from the Klan. He was
Hmm.
walking down the street and they were walking down the same side of the street. And he decided to cross the street and they were kind of, gibbering at him and he ran. So he vowed he was really discontented with himself for running, so he vowed never to do that again. Well, he had his opportunity years later when he was a big time editor and he went down to cover the Little Rock Nine. The Little Rock Nine are nine black students who integrated Little Rock, Arkansas's public school system.
Mm.
Well, this white mob went surrounded the school and said, "Ain't no black kids coming here with my kids," and so they there was a rumor going around throughout the mob that the mob should be distracted so they can get the black kids in the back door. But that was just a rumor; it wasn't true. But they believed it, and they thought that these black reporters, L. Alex Wilson was one of them, was used as decoys to get the black students in the back door. And so when they did that, they went after these black reporters. And
Mm.
I think we got a picture of him. L. Alex Wilson vowed never to run from white people again. So this white mob charged him and confronted him and they beat him
Oh,
very
wow.
severely. And it was like 100 white guys against one black man. All of the rest of the black reporters ran for their safety and their lives. But L. Alex Wilson had a code that he lived by. I'm never running from another white guy again.
Mm,
So they
Hmm.
beat him, and one guy had a brick and hit him in the base of the skull.
mm.
And but the thing was, nobody attacked him from the front. Everybody attacked him from the back. And when he got up from the ground, because they kept knocking him down, he would crease his hat, put it back on, keep walking. And they hit him and he'd fall, get up, crease his hat, put it back on. To show that you're not gonna knock me off my dignity.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
one guy had a brick hit him in the base of the skull, which caused Parkinson's.
Oh.
Mm.
And it shortened his life. So toward the end of his life, he was in his house writing stories like he was on the story, but it wasn't an actual story. He did it so long and he was so professional. He would get up, not being really in his right mind, but would put a tie on, put his suit and coat on, crease his hat and put it on and
Oh,
tight until the day he died.
wow.
His wife, Emma Jean Wilson, doesn't want anybody to forget him. So she wrote a book that she never got to finish, and she died in 2020. But she was honored on his behalf by the National Association of Black Journalists. So
Wow.
today we honor my great uncle, L. Alex Wilson.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I
so
see.
Jesus.
You got some people in your family. Okay, then.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. His name was Lucius Alex Wilson, but he went by L. Alex because people kept calling him Luscious, and he couldn't stand it. So
Oh,
L. Period Alex Wilson, my great uncle.
Okay, very nice. I
greatness in
like
your
it.
family.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Okay. That's very interesting. That's why I can't stand the thing we are not our ancestors.
But
I
we
hate it.
are.
Because they put up with so much and they fought so hard. So
Mhm.
a lot of us are not our ancestors. Let's
Right.
just say that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, we have LaKeisha Mallett, who is absolutely no stranger to All the Way There podcast. If you've watched us or kept up with us in the past, she's been here before. But if you are interested in getting your finances in order, she is your girl. Listen, she is one to bridge the gap between um, entrepreneurship and just learning the basic finances, right?
Economics. Yep.
Economics. So
Mhm.
we're gonna talk a little bit about it. So tell us more about you, LaKeisha. You got kids, you're
Yes.
married, all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. So I am the product of Detroit Public Schools. I grew up on the east side of Detroit.
Oh, wait. What school?
High school, Martin Luther King Junior Senior High School.
Oh, that's
Okay.
yeah. We'll settle for that. Okay, go ahead.
In lieu of Black History Month.
Yes,
Right?
the celebration in honor of Black History Month. I am a wife. I'm a mom. I have 3 young girls that
Okay.
it's amazing to watch them grow and flourish in life. And I'm a businesswoman, so I left my corporate job in 2017 and have been
Okay.
following this road called entrepreneurship since then. So it's been an amazing journey with its hills and valleys, but wouldn't trade it for anything. And I started my personal finance journey in 2007. So we'll probably talk about that soon. But I started my journey in 2007. It was personal for me.
Okay.
And now what was personal for me has become my mission to help empower other people, really to lay the groundwork and lay the foundation for a solid financial future.
Okay. So I have a question before we get to that question. Vern said he planned to play the lottery, but he'll listen today. Okay.
What,
Only Vern.
Vern? I
He
still got
said
that dictionary because what is IPL? But go ahead.
he meant I'll listen today is what he meant. So you decided to take the leap of faith and leave corporate America and
Mhm.
start your own. Was that and I know a lot of people don't like to use the word scary, but how was that for you? Like trying to step
Yes,
out, you had to have because you were married at the time, so you had a
yes,
spouse that had to be very supportive.
yes, yes. Yeah, so that's a great question that you asked because my husband has been very, very supportive. And I think if he wasn't as supportive, I probably would have had to get a job a long time ago because, like I said, entrepreneurship does come with its ups and downs, but
Mm-hmm.
with everything, right? It has its ebbs and flows. So really, just jumping out on faith, it was a blind leap of faith, which is not something I advise most people to do because when it does get a little tight, you got to be able to weather the storm. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why setting up again those pillars to wealth, your foundation is important because if you don't, when the storm comes, like the three little pigs, when the wolf blows, the house is gonna come crumbling down. And
Mhm.
so, you know, if most people don't put the plan in place, then unless you can hustle day and night, the storm is gonna come. And
Right,
we
right,
need to be
right.
able to weather the storm. So I did leave my job in 2017. It was probably one of the scariest things I've done, but also one of the most rewarding things I've done as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had just given birth to my third little girl. I have three girls.
Okay.
I had just given birth to my baby girl. And I remember being in a hospital bed and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I couldn't continue to build out someone else's dream when I felt God had put one in my heart and
Mm.
I was being idle with it. It's like, how dare you think you have more than just the one life to live to do what God has called you to do? And so that's
Wow.
kind of how I just jumped out. And like I said, it was scary trying to swim in the beginning.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been the most
That was pretty
pleasurable.
deep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was pretty deep. I mean, how because that's like the audacity.
Right, right. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you know what's also amazing. This is not on the subject, but it kind of is because it does relate to money. When you look at the how much daycare costs nowadays,
Mhm,
three
mhm.
girls. Now, like you said, I'm not instructing people to do it, but I was looking at my girlfriend. For one child, she is paying $300 a week. So for
Yeah,
two, she's paying $500 a week. And if
yeah,
you don't make a nice amount of money, you're really working just to pay for somebody to take care of your kids.
absolutely.
But that's another topic for
It,
another
but it
day.
is, it is this topic because this is actually why I came up with Plan to Prosper. Because one of the things that I noticed, and especially in communities of color, we don't allocate funds and resources to be able to have something and generate revenue and income outside of our 9 to 5. And
Right.
so, if your whole life and livelihood is based on one income, and 2020 showed us what happens when
Oh,
your
wait.
life is based off one income. If something unforeseen happens and that is no longer there as just stability, how are you
Mm-hmm.
going to move on? A
Mhm.
lot of those companies never came back. Some of
Oh,
them
my
did. They
goodness.
did. Most people still didn't get those jobs back, or they were laid off and didn't come back. Didn't get those opportunities again to work there. So it's like, what do you do now? And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people don't think about the later.
Mhm.
And so
And
one of my oh, go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just agreeing with you. That is absolutely true.
Yeah. And so one of my favorite stories in the Bible is in Second Kings, and it's the story about the widow woman, right? And
Hmm.
so one of the things that I like, and when you hear preachers use this story all the time, it's from a different angle. But when she went to the prophet and she said in Keisha's vernacular times, "Hey, man of God, my husband worked for you all these years.
Mhm.
The creditor's about to come get my sons. What are you about to do?" And he said, "What
Mm.
do you have in your house?" So he gave her a plan to prosper. He didn't say, "Come in here, I'm gonna pray with you, I'm gonna lay hands, and we're gonna call down fire from heaven, and let me go get some resources out the back." He said, "What do you have?" Because I think God has given each and every one of us a gift
That's
that we
right.
are to monetize and share with the world. And I tell my kids this all the time. And for anybody listening, I want you to remember this. We are here to change the world for good and for God.
Mhm.
And that's what I
Mm.
tell my kids. And I'm like, you have something in you that you're supposed to help change the world with. And so I think that's what he gave her. He gave her a wealth plan. He gave her a plan to prosper because he said, "Hey, go borrow the jars. Don't borrow a few. Borrow
Mhm.
as many as you can. Get
Mhm.
the jars, fill them up with oil. Close the door. Do it in private. fill up the oil, sell the oil. You and your kids live off the rest. So pay off your debt and live off the rest. And nowhere in there did he say, let's put a budget together. Let me see what your profit and loss statement
I
is,
love it.
right, or your income statement. Let me see what you have. You have all that is more than enough to create your plan to prosper. And so that's how
I like that you said that, and then you purposely said that she's do it in private. So that means when God gives you something and drops something in your spirit, you don't have.
Uh-oh, she got locked up.
Yeah, I was gonna say she froze.
Yeah. So my question to you was, I was gonna ask you 3 questions, but they all came at 3 different times. Where did you live on the east side? That's for my personal thing, because I grew up on the east side too. How did you start?
Where did I live? But okay.
What is your how did you begin in finance?
Okay.
And the third question is, I work with a lot of young guys and I work with a lot of old guys. And a lot of life has happened to the old guys, like divorces and stuff. So they're kind of like in the same boat as the young guys as far as planning for retirement. So I wanted you to kind of actually talk to the young guys and say, this is what you should be doing at 21, 22, 23.
Okay. Okay.
You remember those 3?
Yep, I sure do. So we're gonna go back. I'll say for the first one. So my high school years, my mom finally bought a house or was able to buy a house. So I grew up on Ida Drive. I lived off of Mound and between Mound and Ryan, so Mound and Ida Drive.
Okay.
And Persian was my neighborhood high school.
Yep, Persian.
I went to Martin Luther King.
Okay.
I went
to Kettering.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I grew up back Kettering. I went my elementary school years. My grandparents lived on McClellan. So yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I definitely Kettering would have been my neighborhood school if we continued to live over there. So
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you didn't go there. Okay, but go ahead.
But you know what? My mom graduated from Kettering.
Really? What year?
Yeah. 70.
Oh yeah.
70, 71.
Okay.
So I had my mom, aunt, and uncle all graduated from Kettering. So
okay.
Yeah. Did you go to Burroughs?
I did go to Burroughs.
Okay. Yep.
And L. Holmes.
I went to L. Holmes.
You did? You are a sister.
Yep. I did. I went there for kindergarten and 5th grade.
Yeah, that's all it goes to.
A couple other schools in between.
Okay, cool. I knew I liked you as soon as I saw you.
Yep. So that was question 1 too, how I got started. So let me take you guys on a journey. So when growing up in the city, and this is no knock at the city or anybody in the city, the only people I really saw doing well with money were doing it in the streets. And so I knew that I wanted to live a life different than, I was living and experiencing, but I didn't want to do it that way. So I thought the only way to financial freedom and living the American dream, as they say, right, was to go to college. And so I did that. And I graduated from college, started my first job in corporate America, which I stayed with that same company until I left in 2017. And I was about a year and a half in, and I was walking to work literally in tears. It was December 2007. I will remember this day all of my life. I was walking to work, and I got on the elevator with a lady who happened to actually go to the same church that I went to at the time. And she was like, "What has you in tears so early in the morning?" It was the burden of debt. I had credit card debt, student loan debt. My car needed to go in the shop. I needed new brakes. I mean, it was like the pressure, and I wasn't making that much money. So I literally was like, okay, God, this is not the abundant life you came that we might live. So what don't I know? And so that is what started my journey in January 2008. So December was my conversation with her. In January of 2008, I decided I was going to devour every book that I could find on personal finance and money and building wealth. And 18 months later, I was totally and completely debt free.
I love it. I love it.
After that, I was sharing with every person I work with, anybody who would listen. I'm like, okay, you got to do this. You got to put this much aside. You have to set up your plan. So I started my journey then. And initially, it started out me speaking to women because, to get to your third question, Aaron, I found that women were at the tail end of when an unexpected life event happened. Was it whether it was an unexpected divorce, the
Mhm.
loss of a spouse, and not really knowing how to pick up the pieces. So you're seeing it from a man's angle, but I saw so many women struggling with what's next after those situations, the circumstances happen.
Mhm.
And somebody has to help, because who was talking to us women? Everybody was talking the language of a man, especially when it came to money.
That is so true.
And so no one was really speaking to us. And we're the number one breadwinner at this point. So now it's like we can no longer afford to be naive or oblivious to conversations around money, because they need to be had. But speaking to the men, so in your 20s, you are just in a great place because time is on your side. So one of the things that I always advise, if you're working a job, if your job offers a 401k and they match, contribute to that. Let them match that money. So you can start your own individual investments account, open a Roth IRA, start saving, buy you stocks, buy a couple stocks, or buy you a couple bonds. There are so many things that you can do when you're in your 20s, because time is on your side. If you do have the extra funds, start looking into real estate. Buy you a duplex, live on one side, rent out the other side. You can have some passive income starting to come in just by doing something like that in your 20s. Then you can house hack.
Right, right.
Go up from there.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I'll pass that along. So, Crystal Edwards, who's one of our family members. She said she graduated from Southeastern High. Sorry to hear that. In 1970, of course, technology and law was added years later. Yeah, so that kind of speaks to there was not a lot of financial literacy even when we were in high school. I mean, they just taught you, college. The path is college, but they could have showed us that in high school too. But it wasn't there. But thank God for people like you. But I am going to get a book because I got two young sons who are at the cusp for the exactly what you just said.
So for me, LaKeisha, I kind of got into you young lady circle because I went through similar things like you did, and that's how I got connected with Dorothea. So she was you for me,
right?
know. So it was kind of like, okay, I don't know what to do. I you go through a divorce, you think life is gonna happen, and then you realize that you were living off of two incomes, and now you're down to one, and this lifestyle that you had is no longer existing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need somebody to help me out. So I think this is a wonderful thing. I also had a mother who worked in finances all her entire life. So that did help as far as keeping your credit great. So when things did start happening, I'm like, I was never one of those persons that were like, okay, well, it is what it is. If, whatever get paid, because she did teach us that.
Right.
But it's how do you climb back out of the rabbit hole? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So once you go in, it's like you got to get back out. So I absolutely love that you stay in touch with, the people for that.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear his question because my thing went on the blitz for a second. I don't know what happened. I'm like, I don't know if you guys heard me. I'm like, can you guys hear me?
No, you went out.
Okay. Because so when I was stuck on the point about you saying it being done in private, I don't know. Did you hear the rest of what I said with that?
No,
That's
kind of how you went
out. Okay, so I was saying what I like what you used about that story about it being in private. Is the fact that a lot of times when God is instructing us to do something to take us to the next level, that first step when God is telling people run to social media and they like, oh, watch out, look out for new exciting things coming. Yeah. And it's like, wait, God just said, go do it. He said, go tell everybody. Just go do it. And then show up.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there have any questions for her, let us know. So you're going to talk about this wonderful book. And I know it's 24 minutes in, but I still want to talk about this before we get to some other financial questions. Because if anybody gets to order this book, it is so easily written. Like your daily plan, your daily journal, week 4. So I'm telling you, I'm really guilty and not writing stuff down every week. Like, okay, I spent $60 in the grocery store. I spent $30 for gas. I'm not good with those. So I know a lot of people think they can keep stuff in their head, and I am one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But for people like me, this is good. Because
and that's why I created it for people like me, because I'm like you. I'm like you. And so the funny thing is, when we do that, when we have it only in our head and we don't have our plan on paper, it's so easy to get distracted.
It is. I know it is.
Yep, it's so easy to get off the task. Like, I like to use the analogy, like if I was going to go from Detroit to Chicago, if I go anyway but 94, for the most part, I'm not getting there, or definitely not getting there quickly. And so I could jump on the Lodge, I could jump on 75, I could jump on a lot of freeways. But if I don't make my way to 94, more than likely I'm not going to get to my destination. And so the thing is, without the plan, without the roadmap, without the blueprint, we're going to do a whole lot of traveling. We're just not going to get
that is true. I think the only thing, and people listen to me when I say the only thing that helps me, is I set aside a certain amount of money weekly that I just don't touch.
Yeah.
So that money never gets touched. I mean, like it had, like God himself has said, go take this money out to go pay for this. So I think that's the only thing that helped me. And some people don't do that either.
Yeah.
They don't have an account that they don't touch. So once that money goes there, it's not touched. But we do need to write stuff down, because I know I'm really guilty of it. I'm like, wait a minute, did I buy popcorn last week? I know I didn't, but in my head, I remembered at the time. So somebody have a question for you. Oh, what is the name of the book? What is the name of the book? Plan to Prosper.
Yeah, it's a journal/workbook, and it's really to help you start to map out your year financially. Like, where do you want to be at the end of 2024? Like, we start the year with all these New Year affirmations and these goals, and we're going to set off to conquer the world, right? But you can't conquer the world until you take the first step. And I think that is, and I don't think, that's why I created this, is to help give you the path to start. Where's your first step? Because if I know right now I make $80,000 a year, but I want to earn $100,000 a year, let's just say, then what steps do I need to take to bridge the gap to get to that extra $20,000? Or I know I have $4,000 in credit card debt. I at least want to knock that in half, or I want to have it paid off. Well, how do I start that? And that's when you mentioned, Keila, writing it down, that's when that becomes important, because I know how you spend $1 is how you spend $1 million. And I tell my clients that all the time. How you spend one will be how you spend $1 million. So if you never set the path for how you'll manage your pennies, your dollars will take care of themselves eventually, but you have to set the path or lay the plan for how you're going to spend every dollar. And I like to say, spend your money on paper. And
that's
I get that piece from when I taught Dave Ramsey's financial piece, spend every dollar on paper, because it does make sense. Now, there are some different things that I'm tweaked and do a little bit different when I coach people, but I think that is fundamental, and that's very important. Spend every dollar on paper.
Yeah. Do you do anything with crypto, or is just a budgeting kind of thing?
Yeah, no, not much with crypto yet, although we're starting to. So I do have some XRP, but yeah, I can't really speak to that as much because I haven't delved into that area yet. But I know it's very important, because I know in 2020 the Banking for All Act was passed.
Right.
Yeah, we're definitely moving in that path.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had a friend that used to tell me all the time that she used to hate to write stuff down, because when she wrote stuff down, she would be so embarrassed to realize how much she was spending on eating out. And she was like, so if I don't write it down, I just don't see it. And I'm like, but it's still happening.
It's still happening.
So to say you spent $500 on takeout for the whole week, you still need to write it down.
Right.
So for those who may think that, it's just your journal, Yeah.
But then that goes back to another underlying question I like to ask too. Like, what are your overall money goals? Because if your goal is to pay off that $4,000 credit card, then by all means, we can't spend $500 a month eating out.
That is true.
Or that's more of a priority than knocking out the credit card debt. So it's really getting to at the heart of, why do you want to get the credit card paid off, or do you not? Are you comfortable and complacent? Or how do we change your beliefs around money in order so we can start making better choices and better habits with it?
Right. That's very good advice as well.
So,
Go ahead, Aaron.
I'll read it. Miss Graham says a lot of people don't believe that they can save anything. It takes discipline and a decision. I still keep a monthly budget. Take baby steps.
Taking the baby steps. Yeah, I know, Miss Doris.
No, she do.
So what's a lot in that question that I'm gonna bring out? Many people, like she said, don't believe they can save anything because they wait until after they pay everybody in order to think about saving. It's never gonna work that way. And you have to start saving first and make savings your first priority. And I always say, pay yourself first. I have a percentage that I like people to start off with, but if you feel like it's too tight and you can't start there, then start with something to create the mental habits in your mind that will continue to play out. So if you can only put up $50 a paycheck, put up $50 a paycheck till you can get to 10%. But start somewhere. You have to start doing it first. We pay everybody. And so
I was going to ask, was it 10%?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I say start with paying yourself first, and then you know what you have to work with after that. Actually, I like to pull out 30%, and then you have 30% to work with. But yeah.
Okay, so I ask this question to every financial person that I come across, and it's a guy that I work with.
Okay.
He shared with me his situation, and I keep telling him to watch the podcast because we have people on here who can help him. He is in a position where he's paying child support.
Okay.
And he has two other things that's on him financially that he can't get from under. So his check comes and it's gone.
Okay.
What would you share with him in this whole thing where he got three things coming down on him all at once? He's paying them, but he doesn't have a lot going on after that.
Okay. Well,
how can he dig himself out at the beginning steps?
Okay, so I can't speak to the specifics of his financial situation because we don't have the dollars and cents in front of us.
Right.
But that's why I love the story in 2 Kings. He does have something that he can use. Maybe you cut hair. Maybe you cut grass. Maybe you can't do anything, but you know how to wash a car. You know, there is something that you can do with your hands that can begin to generate other income for you.
Gotcha.
Or for him, especially from a business owner side. I don't like to say go get another job, but if you have to do that, you can. But I think the advantages of owning your own business outweigh just getting a second job. But there is something you can do, you know, knock on the business's doors, you know, can I clean the windows? There is a profit plan that he can follow. You know, I think when we only focus on, again, we said it at the beginning of the show, the one way that we earn money,
yes,
it's never gonna lead us down the road to the abundant life we're supposed to have. It's just not. It's not meant to make anybody be wealthy, and most people won't become wealthy that way. And so you have to think outside of the box, and you have to think outside of that one way. We need multiple revenue streams, multiple ways of producing income, so we can get from out of those traps of that hamster wheel, spinning your wheels,
right,
never getting ahead. Yeah.
And you also hear some of the big gurus say you should have at least 7 streams of income if possible, but at least you should have another one.
Right. Yeah, and most millionaires, they do have at least 5 streams of income. But again, when we're talking about streams, it's not something totally different. You can have a book that becomes a movie. You can turn your book into an audio program. You can create something else from it. So you can
turn it into a journal.
Yeah, a journal. So there could be multiple streams from one product.
I
So
like
it doesn't, it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm in real estate and now I'm in real estate and then I open a candy shop and then
Right.
I open a candy shop, and then you just spread so thin. It's like, what idea do you have or what are you good at that you can monetize multiple ways?
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I like it because at the end of the day, all of your answers has basically been don't be lazy.
Yeah. And so again, going back to my old Dave Ramsey days, I remember I first heard the scripture from him and it was in Hebrews. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but what comes from it produces a harvest of wealth, right? So we don't want to eat healthy and work out, but what comes from that is a
Exactly.
lean body, a healthy body, healthy blood pressure, whatever. We don't want to save first. We don't want to delay our gratification, but when we do, we get to enjoy the fruits of that later. And so we don't want to do it up front, but we have to do it up front in order to get to where we want to get. And that's why, going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, just really understanding what your goals are. And so I tell people this story all the time about my husband. So I had read this book many moons ago, and in the book the guy was telling this story about this woman who wanted to be married, and he gave her these things to do, and at the end, like a year later, she was married. And so I was like, is that really true? Could that really work? So I followed the steps, and a year later I was married too. But where I'm going with the story is I knew what I was looking for.
Right.
Because he made
Absolutely.
you write down what you were looking for so it made it easier today. Oh, you lying? That's okay. You got it. Oh, so it was easier to spot the red flags.
Right.
Because I knew what I was looking for. And so the same thing with creating your plan to prosper, right? If I know that at the end of the year, it's imperative that I pay this credit card off, then when you say, hey, let's take this trip to New York, okay, maybe not this year, catch me next year.
Right.
Or, let me make sure I have all my other priorities in place first, so then I can be able to spend and do those things freely without, again, the burden of that debt on your shoulder. Because I'm telling you, I know what that feels like. It is not fun. And trying to get from up under it, it seems like you're
it takes forever.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing. Like you just said, it's all about sacrifice too, because that little thing that I went through with Dorothea, when I felt like I didn't go to the mall. I felt like I mixed matched so many clothes. I had never, a Rubik's Cube didn't have nothing on me. Okay. We're trying to get them colors together. But you have to, like you say, at the end of the day, you have to have some level of discipline because you want to reach the greater goal. And so for, I believe, like 2 years in a row, everybody they get their income tax. They're like, we're going to get crab legs. We're going to get this. And she was like, no, all of that income tax needs to go straight to this debt. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I should be getting something out of this, because I paid these taxes. But when it was all said and done for those 2 years that I had to do that and go without going to the mall and go without I don't even step into the mall because that's how tempting it was. And if anybody know me, I'll go to Target just to touch stuff. Okay. So you have to have the discipline to get to the greater goal. So I like that you mentioned that.
Keila, we are so much alike. That was me. Like, I could go to Target for toothpaste and
my goodness.
And I leave out my bill $100. I done bought Doritos, some sheets, some towels, some stockings. That was how I started my journey too. It was like you have to get a handle on this. And I don't know if you remember Catherine Egan.
Yes.
She used to teach some wealthy women workshops and classes, and I used to love to listen to her when I started my journey. And she talked about going on a spending fast. And I had never heard of like spending fast. I didn't even really understand fasting from a food standpoint. But I think that set me free, because after that, I never looked at shopping and everything the same.
No, that's true. Because I used to dig real deep into the retail therapy, but now I will go to look and not necessarily spend as much because I like for my account to be at a certain amount. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, I'm not buying stupid things.
Yeah.
But I have another question that I want to ask. So what is like for America? And overall, what is the biggest thing that America will how can I word this question? Like the biggest debt, is it like credit card, car,
Yep.
housing?
So, yep, that's a good question. So, yep, credit card debt is most people's vice, right? The average American holds thousands of dollars in credit card debt. And when you think about that, when you couple that with a mortgage, when you couple that with car payments, and you think about student loan debt throwing into the equation as well, that is like a recipe for financial ruin. And most people never really figure out how to get ahead of all of that. And like I told you guys at the beginning with my story, it took me 18 months to be totally and completely debt free. And we're talking about, I had like $45,000 in debt when I started my journey. So to be able to pay off in 18 months, $45,000,
Yes, that's a blessing.
most people can live debt free if they just had a plan. You know, and that really is what it boils down to. But we have to be disciplined. We have to make a decision. We have to design our plan, and then we have to walk out those steps. And although it sounds easy, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. Right.
Right.
So,
right.
and
that's good right there. What's easy to do is what's easy not to do. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I got a question, but I want to read Miss Graham's comment. When my children were small, I used to play the lottery. What? The guy who took our numbers put them in automatically, and we paid him on Friday. One particular Friday, I was short on money, and I had to pay him. This was an eye opener for me, paying the number man before I paid for my children's care. Wow. I started saving weekly the money that I was giving him, and for the first time, I saw a decent savings account.
Oh
wow, Miss
Well,
Graham.
that must have been when I was 4, because I ain't never seen my mama play the lottery. But
that's because the number man was at work.
I guess, because but I can't remember. Occasionally, my dad be like, "What's your favorite number?" But I didn't think nothing about it. I thought it was something about maybe watching Sesame Street or something. That's hilarious.
Wow. But it's in what Miss Doris said. Isn't it something how it was just one small tweak, right?
Yep.
It wasn't anything monumental that she did to shift her financial situation. It was just one small tweak. I'm going to stop doing this here and start doing this over
and
here.
Save it. I'll save this.
Yep, to see a significant increase in my savings account. And really, for most people, that's all it takes is one small tweak. Again, we have to think we've been conditioned to do things one way. Guess what? That one way hasn't worked for the majority of America. So why do we keep following that same way, right?
Right.
And it's not working. So
and I like how you right. Yeah, exactly. And I love how you said earlier, they was never set up for you to be rich. It was just for you to get by. Yeah. Basically. You know what I mean? So you have to go with the God-given things that he gave you to create more income. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So is there any future books in your future?
Actually, there are. Oh. But I'm like Keela. She said move in silence right now. But yes, there is actually going to be a book, and this is going to be the companion to it eventually. It was just birth first. But yeah,
I knew it. I knew this had a companion.
Yep. This was just
it looked first, like it does.
Yeah.
Now, will it have 3 guys in the front? I mean, because
we can talk about that, Aaron. I might have to make a man's way to prosper. Yeah. but it was a man who left his wife in that situation, though, Aaron. I don't
know. Oh, okay. So so the thing about the lottery, I run into a lot of people who look at the lottery as a safety net, and I guess it kind of moves, and it's an obvious answer, but not a lot of people want to tell people who are addicted to gambling that that money can, like Miss Graham said, that money can go toward getting you out of debt. And I know that that's what you would say to them, but I talked to quite a few guys who are now doing FanDuel. And they're doing a lot of sports gambling where it was illegal before, and it's causing them even more problems because they thought that this would be a quick fix to their debt. So I know you're going to say, well, stop doing it. but any practical way they can stop doing it?
So again, what's easy to do is also easy not to do, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I had a friend um who his marriage was destroyed because of his gambling addiction. And the thing is, we always want the quick fix, the easy way out. Really, there is no quick fix other than really starting to shift your mind about why do I want it so fast that I would, because you figure I want something for nothing when I'm gambling, right? I want to put in $5 and I want to get 5 million back. Anything with that return is fraudulent, right? Anything that can produce those type of returns for you would not be good. And most lottery winners, most people who come into significant amounts of wealth, whether it's from an inheritance, trust funds, guess what? The way you spend $1 will be how you spend $1 million.
Yep.
I don't care if you spend $50 and you make 500 on the lottery. You win the lottery and you get the $500. Guess what? You're gonna now take that 500
Yep.
instead of doing what you should have done if you had a plan in place. Now I want to see how quick I can flip this.
I'm gonna double this. I'm gonna see if I can double this.
Again, that's that street thinking, right? How do we take this and how do I flip it? How do I flip it? How do I flip it? Only the odds aren't in your favor. And so most people don't, just like going to Vegas, the odds are, you're not going to beat the house.
Not in your favor at all.
So until you can understand that you're not going to beat the house, you're going to steadily be chasing this carrot, right? It's the carrot dangling in front.
And that's the plan.
One more time.
That's the plan. Is for you to continually chase the carrot.
Yeah.
That was a really good analogy. So this question wasn't in our books, but I'm going to ask you this question. And if you don't have a clear answer, that's okay. But I do want to see, since you're here, a lot of people, even church people, because this has actually been an argument, what is the difference between gambling and the stock market? Because they feel like the stock market is extremely risky. And so you're putting your money, and this has like caused some fights between church members, that we've seen personally. So if you play the stock market, I should be able to gamble. So what do you think about that?
So that is a good question. And so to answer that, I'm going to go from the natural perspective and I'm going to go from the spiritual perspective. Okay. So when the Lord tells us, sow your seed, give some to 7, some to 8, you don't know where your harvest is going to come from. That is investing. When you think about the story, I think it's in Matthew, when the parable of the talent, when you dissect the scripture, he says, at least you could invest in my money with the money changers. At least I could have got some interest. So investing is in the scriptures, but not from a gambling standpoint. And again, gambling is different than the stock market because the stock market is efficient. But guess what? It's going to have its ups and its downs. It's going to ebb and it's going to flow. So when you think about that, you have to understand your risk tolerance level. So you can't be in speculative stocks. You can't be stock picking, track record investing. Those things are going to be speculative, and because you don't know, the market is going to go up, it's going to go down. Real estate does the same thing. So nobody stops buying a house. You just have to be, how should I say it? You just have to be mindful with how you allocate your plan. And you have to decide, are you going to be in growth stocks? Are you going to be in a mixture of all of it? You can't take $1 and say, I'm going to bet it all on number 7.
Right.
It doesn't work like that, because guess what? The market is going to go up and it's going to come down, and you have no control over when it does that, but it does also rebalance itself as well.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. That's good. That's good, because and they also tell you when you're getting into stocks too. If you don't have a good amount to put in, this is very volatile. So I don't want you to invest everything here because you could lose it. You know what I mean? With gambling, they're like, throw it all in.
Right, but there's no guaranteed return on the outside of that either. Because you can go and pay the lottery tomorrow, or you can go to the blackjack table and bet it all on 7. And I keep saying 7. I don't know nothing about blackjack or roulette. I might be saying the wrong tables, but you can go bet it all, and there is no guarantee at the end for you. So you don't know. Now you can put your money into a mutual fund, or you can invest in a specific account, or you can get a Vanguard fund, and then it's going to at least an index fund, and it's at least going to mirror the market. So you're only going to get so much, but you're only going to lose so much too. So it's not like you're going to bet your whole retirement and you're going to reach retirement age and be broke.
Right. Okay, great answer. Look, off the cuff. Okay, go ahead, Aaron, with that.
Crystal says in the 50s and 60s and 70s, street numbers were better than government created lottery. People were very successful hitting. Black people bought homes and rental properties. That's why the lottery was created.
Okay, come through with some history, Crystal.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Southeastern education came through.
But then that's great, because most times many African Americans wouldn't be able to afford a house back then. But when we start talking about teaching wealth principles, something that is sustainable and can last more than one generation, you can't teach betting, because it doesn't translate into something that can go from generation to generation. When we go back to our story in 2 Kings, he said, you and your sons live off the rest. He didn't say, go tell them boys get a job. That was her generational wealth plan, right?
Yes.
That was generational wealth plan. And God, he told us, I want you to leave an inheritance for your children's children. You can't pass down. I guess you could pass down lottery winnings, but what would they do with it once they got it? If they don't understand the law and flow of money, they're going to blow through it that first generation. It's not making it to the second generation.
Absolutely. That's good.
Ms. Graham says, what do you look for when you look for a financial advisor?
Oh, that's really a great question. So one thing is if they speak your language, because sometimes a man might speak over a woman's head. A woman might not speak the language of a man. Do they explain investing in terms that you understand? Do you understand why you're investing? Do you understand your risk tolerance? Those are questions that you need to talk to with a financial advisor about. And then you need to understand for yourself, if I'm not a risky investor, then I can't be in a risky fund, even though the rate of return on it is going to be significantly higher. It's going to draw me in. I want that quick money fast. I know I'm not there. If I wake up tomorrow and the stock market does a dip and I see $20,000 going out of my account, oh wait, I'm pulling out. So you have to think about what are your individual goals. Before you go speak to an advisor, where do you want to be 20 years from now, 30 years from now? What do you want your life to look like when you're 80? Because if I go in there, of course, they're going to tell you everything they can to sell their specific product. Some good, some not so good for you, especially if it's an advisor who is paid off commission. Nothing wrong with advisors who are paid off commission, but you have to think the idea is for it to benefit them as well. But what is going to benefit you? And how do I know what's going to benefit me if I don't know what long-term looks like for me? And so if you can ask yourself those questions and you can start to write down, where do I want to be 5 years from now financially, 10 years from now, 30 years from now? Do I want to be able to keep my same standard of living? How will I be able to do that? Then you can go to an advisor and they can help you create the best plan for you, because maybe it's going to be a mixture of stocks, bonds, maybe it's going to be some life insurance in there. So there are different avenues in which you can get to your end goal, but nobody can take you where you don't know you're going, right? So
that's true.
What's the saying? You throw a dart against the wall, anywhere it lands is your
right.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, definitely don't want that.
Yeah, you want to be a little more in control. And once you know where you want to go, then it's easier to help. It's easier for you to pick up an advisor who can help get you there.
When I first started listening to certain, names, and you getting into the money and you listening to different people and you feeling like you kind of on the tracks. This one lady I was listening to, by the time you got done listening to her show, I'm like, I would be living in a cardboard box, eating cheese and crackers, and I'm not doing it. Like she wouldn't allow you to do anything. And at that point, I knew this ain't my person.
Yeah.
Because she like, sell it all, live with your parents, live here. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, I gotta have my own life at some point.
Right.
So I like that you said that, because they have to speak your language. Because I'm thinking like, I have to give up everything. Listen to this lady.
Yeah.
So she was extreme.
So this go back to the question. I think you might have brought it up, Keila, but I think Aaron talked about it too, about the discipline, right? And we talked about no discipline seems pleasant at the time. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to give it up all, right? So if I like, okay, again, let's use an analogy of dieting, right?
Right.
If I don't know what my end goal is for my weight, and you tell me I have to give up everything that I seem to like and enjoy, how long you think I'm gonna keep up with that diet?
Yeah, I'm not gonna keep it up.
You're gonna get you over real quick. And the same thing with our financial plan too. If there is too much, and we serve a God of abundance, but if there is too much lack and limitation into how I'm supposed to do this thing, I'm not gonna stick with it.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's real good.
You can only deprive yourself for so long before you start to begrudge it and hate the fact that you're doing it.
Right.
And so it's like you have to have this healthy balance of the two. How do I put the plan in place? How do I follow the plan and be structured with it, but still have the liberality to enjoy my money? I'm working every day.
Right.
What I teach, actually, when I teach my coaching clients, I use the wealth plan, right? Your well-being plan. That's where it all starts. Then you have to have your expansion account, your acceleration account, your legacy account, your treasure account. And that's what I was getting at, your treasure. Because a part of all you earn is yours to keep, which I talked about that earlier. That goes into your expansion account. But treasuring yourself, you work hard, play hard. The way you treat yourself is how you treat others, right? Love God, love, you have to love people as you love yourself. Well, I can't love you more than I love myself. So how do I love myself? How do I spend my money in a way that I enjoy, but still incorporate all the other components? Because guess what? You can tithe and still be broke. So the plan can be insufficient. It cannot work with just one piece of it. Or I could spend all my money treating myself every time I need to be treated. But when the brakes need to be fixed on my car,
you can't fix them.
So we have to. The plan has to encompass it all.
And those end up being the people that try to borrow money for things that they need to be fixed instead of the things that they want. So they always buying what they want, but need money when they need something. Yeah. We don't even have time for those. So we're gonna show your book. And that borrowing money, that's a whole nother topic too.
Mm-hmm.
Girl,
don't do it. Don't.
Quite a few scriptures about loaning money. My mother brought the Bible to me one day. Was like, don't loan that girl no money. The Bible say right here, do not co-sign. I was like, well, that ain't but I didn't know that was in there. So it was kind of good.
You do not co-sign. Now, okay, absolutely do not co-sign. But let me take that back about, we don't want to be the borrowers, but we can be the lender, right? Because the borrower has no control. And that's why the Bible says be a lender, not a borrower, because you don't have any control over when they say pay it back, how they say pay it back, as fast as you have to pay it back, and what amounts. So you lose all of your freedom, your flexibility, and control when you're the borrower. But we could definitely lend money because that's not simple, right?
And that's why I don't borrow money from people, because I refuse to not avoid numbers on my phone that I pay the bill for. So look. So here's LaKeisha's book, guys. You got to go and order it, please. It's a great journal, and it's very user-friendly. I love things that are user-friendly. I think people will enjoy it, especially if they are trying to. So, Aaron, what?
The challenge is pick up the book by Miss LaKeisha Mallett called Plan to Prosper. That's the challenge for the week.
Thank you, LaKeisha.
Thank you.
I hate to end it because it was so good. And I love how you threw all them scriptures in there, girl. That was awesome. So thank you for coming on the show. And like Aaron said, take the challenge. And we will see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.
East side.
For life.
East side.
Bye, y'all.